Sinn Féin TDs will be voting against this budget. It's obscene that the government, in order to fund the dig-out from the IMF and the EU, is going to visit savage cuts upon the most vulnerable people here, that to pay back their cronies in the banking institutions and those who created this mess, that the ordinary people, particularly low and middle income families, are going to have to pick up what appear to be really, really heavy debts. We also want to make it very, very clear, when we put forward a proposition that you come out of recession by stimulating the economy, by sustaining it in a balanced and even way, by creating jobs, and when we propose that we take 6.7 billion out of the pension fund to invest in a stimulus package, the government said no. And yet the government is prepared to rob the pension fund to pay the banks. It's just disgraceful. The other parties should vote against it, and our TDs will certainly vote against it.
Now, we're going to be stuck with this budget. So what's the most important thing? What should we all be looking out for today? Is it a job stimulus? Is it a job package in this budget?
Well, first of all, I don't think we should, any of us, relegate ourselves to be, budget spotters. It's a bad budget. The roots of it are in this 4-year plan. It's a bad 4-year plan. We, from the very beginning, said it would take longer than 4 years. We put forward practical, common sense proposals. The government have dismissed all of that. The government have stayed away consciously from taxing those who can afford it most, from going after the very, very rich, from bringing in any sort of stimulus package. So this government is making political choices, and we are making different political choices. The second thing is this: the government has no mandate. The government is going to push this budget through, if it gets it through, and then it's going to cut for cover, and then early next year it's going to go for an election. And with the leader of the Labour Party saying he's going to implement the budget anyway. So the people here are going to be saddled, and what the government's trying to do is to fix government policy for the next 4 years. Sinn Féin wants to see a general election, and we will campaign for a mandate to revisit all of this, including renegotiating the deal with the IMF and the EU.
If you do get a mandate, who would you be talking about going into government with? Would it be the Labour Party? You've already said.
Well, we don't even need to talk at this point about who will form the next government. What we do need to do is to keep this debate going, because if this government has its way, not only will we be saddled with the type of debt that everybody is overpowered by, but it won't matter who's in government. What we need is a real debate. There are real choices to be made here. This government has made all the wrong choices. We are arguing for a better way forward, and there is a better way forward. And secondly, people of this island are no mean people. We have been through a huge amount in our history. We can see our way through this if there's sensible, practical leadership by example. That's what we need to see coming out of the next short period. I have no confidence in the government. I have no confidence that they're going to show that sort of leadership.
But it's going to get through because Michael Lowry and Deputy Ray are going to vote for it. So the budget will get through. So
you're seeing here, this modern sort of version of old gumping politics. They're closing hospitals all over the place, and yet they're prepared to put together little deals for little fiefdoms in different parts of the country instead of acting genuinely in the common good and in the national interest.
Mr. Adams, the IMF and the ECB are essentially Ireland's paymasters now. What could Sinn Féin possibly do different in government to renegotiate that aid package? The terms of it, I should say.
Well, first of all, we would send them home. We have put forward very thoughtful submissions on how to come out of recession. First of all, it does mean leading by example. It does mean ministers, it does mean TDs, it does mean the people at the head of the public service taking huge cuts in their salaries. It does mean bringing in another tax band for those who are earning over 100,000. It does mean bringing in a wealth tax, but most of all it means creating jobs. It means stimulating the economy and growing the economy. We would believe, and we argue this for decades, that sovereignty has been shredded over a very long period. But this government has just totally sold out any notion of sovereignty in this last stage. So we want sovereignty back. Sovereignty rests in people. It rests in citizens. It doesn't rest in governments. Governments act on behalf of people and are mandated to do so. This government has no mandate. This government has totally sold out any notion of Irish sovereignty.
But if you say that this government has sold out Irish sovereignty, like it or not, it's been done now. So, I mean, is the prospect of sending the IMF home not too simplistic a response?
No, not at all, because we were told exactly the same thing in terms of the peace process. We were told it would be impossible to do the type of things which we were saying could be done. There would be no Good Friday Agreement. I've said this 100 times. Had we listened to the government, any of you that are old enough to know, the government told us that the Downing Street Declaration was the greatest thing since sliced bread. We were told we had to go for it. So, don't let government set horizons. Let no one set the boundary of what a people or a nation or a state can do. Anything that we decide as a people to do, we can do.